All right, cool. Let's get started. I see a couple of new faces here and some old faces that we've seen from V1. But yeah, welcome everyone. This will be our first community call since our V2 launch. And we're calling it Swing Hours. It'll be a monthly community call series. I will try to keep it monthly and try to keep it consistent. Try to have this community call every month to update everyone on what's going on and what's going to happen. Just run through our achievements through the month and what's planned in probably the short term. The session will be pretty open-ended. We'll for this time around, it will just me and TN speaking in this call, but down the line, we'll be open to invite guest speakers, partner protocols, thought leaders. If you guys know anyone in this space that we think would fit in the community call, to let us know, and if or even we can invite some of our community members to over and maybe share their thoughts, share their experience. But yeah, it'll be pretty open-ended sessions, like pretty much like a campfire session. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, drop your questions at the community call chat channel, and we'll try to address it at the end of the call once we have our Q&A session. Because first, there's some things that we have to address. Because we have new faces here, I think TN will be doing a quick intro of the team and of the protocol, and we'll give you guys some updates on like our achievements and what to expect down the line in the short term, and even some of our key focuses for long term. I think Tian, you can give a brief introduction for the team for those that are not familiar with this yet.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, this is our session, the first session since the V2's launch. So I think it's only right for us to do a more proper introduction of the team, considering that we have new members in the call. So I am Tien, the CEO co-founder of Pendle, and our team, was actually the protocol was actually set up back in October 2020. So it's been a while since the idea was first formed, and we were very fortunate to have gotten support from some of the heavyweights within the crypto sector. So for example, Tian Tian, one of the co-founders of Ember, he was early investor and also advisor of the project. And then Loy Soravis from Kyber and BAM Protocol respectively were also early investors and advisors of our project. So fast forward, we did a raise in a private raise in February 2021, and we had Mechanism, Crypto.com, and Spartan CMS to participate in the round. And then we had a public round in April of 2021. So in all, we've been around for some time. In our first year of operation, we actually saw about $350 million of trading volume across OT and YT markets. And a large part of it actually happened because of the support of Wonderland markets in November and December period of 2021. So, moving forward, I guess the launch of V2 happened in the end of 2022, December. So we are about 3 months old now. And we still have a lot to achieve, but we'll go through those items in the later segment of the call.
Yeah, it's like we've been around for quite a while, and for some of you guys that don't know who we are yet, or what is Pendle, I guess being in the community right now, you ought to know who we are already. But fundamentally, we are a permissionless yield trading protocol where we enable anyone to obtain fixed yield or pretty much long DeFi yield. We've been around for quite a while, but as Tian mentioned, V2 launched in December. There's a lot of new suites that came with V2. I think Tian can go through a little bit of what's new in Pendle V2 and what we've seen already with Pendle V2 since launch.
Yeah, for sure. So Pendle V2 is actually quite different. It's actually vastly different from the first implementation. And I think the high level idea is like there three major differences between the first and second, like Pendle V1 and Pendle V2. So first and foremost, Pendle V2 has a new AMM that is much more capital efficient, right? Because we intended to design the protocol to facilitate and encourage more liquidity provision. So capital efficiency is actually one of the more important components in the design concept. So with the new AMM, we saw higher liquidity utilization, and then and the AMM function, as expected, supported high volume of PD trades with minimal slippage. And specifically, in the last 3 months of operating Pendle, there was one occasion where there was a very big swap, right? 250K swap over a $1 million liquidity pool. So effectively about 25% of the pool that incurred relatively minimal price impact. So it was around 0.4% of price impact. So this is a very good demonstration of the capital efficiency of the new AMM. On the second important implementation in V2 is that Pendle V2 will support permissionless listing. So from a scaling standpoint, we are of the opinion that it's important to allow for developers or protocols to set up pools permissionlessly so that they could establish yield markets of their yield-bearing assets without having to consult the team. And I think this is it. We're still not seeing the full potential of it, but permissionless listing is, we believe, to be one of the most important features of Pendle V2. So with this, we are already seeing a healthy amount of interest from various parties and protocols to set up pools. So if you just scroll through conversations within our Discord server, you'll probably see interest from community members to ask about how they could set up liquidity pools on Pendle to support their desired yield-bearing assets. So on this aspect, we will actually have a permissionless listing UI to make the listing of asset even more straightforward further down. So this is definitely in the pipeline. And the last and the third important implementation in V2 is actually new UIs. So in case you are already familiar with Pendle V1, Pendle V2 features two interfaces, the simple and the pro UI. And the reason for these two UIs is because we want to cater the protocol to a broader range of audience. So with respect to the simple UI, we attempted to abstract away the complexities involved with that comes with derivatives, right? So that users without derivative knowledge can participate in the protocol, and they don't have to understand the details of the mechanics that resides within the Pendle design. So as we've seen, this has been a relatively successful implementation from our perspective, because more than half of liquidity provision actually happens from the simple UI. So meaning to say that most people actually provide liquidity into the Pendle protocol through the simple UI. And then for those users who are more familiar with how Pendle mechanics work, and they want more customization in regards to the types of assets they want to provide into the pool, they have the optionality to do so on the Pro UI. And of course, like for trading of yield and then trading of PT, those are also more convenient and accessible on the Pro UIs. So I guess, like, to sum it up, right, we have three important new implementations on V2, namely the new AMM that is more capital efficient, and we also support permissionless listing in V2, and finally new interfaces to cater to a wider range of audience.
Yeah, I think the permissionless part of things is something that the team is very excited about here, because we've seen very strong interest from a lot of protocols, and I feel like a lot of you guys are familiar that we are very much involved in the LSD ecosystem. And yeah, we've gotten quite some interest from other protocols in the LSD space, and even like other protocols with yield bearing assets reaching out to us for them to set up their pools. For now, it's a little bit complicated to have your pool set up because we don't have that UI to set up their own pools. It's in the pipeline, but on the contract side, it's pretty permissionless already. And just run through a little bit, do a little bit of due diligence and study how um, the contract functions. And I think you can pretty much set up your own pools on Pendle already. But I think we're also working on like simplifying the entire process to set up new pools. And beyond that, we've also like interest from other protocols to have new pools and interest from them to get their own VE Pendle for the new pools. But I think that's something that we're gonna talk about in a little bit. But I think since launch, we've seen quite a healthy tractions, quite healthy tractions of the protocol. I think Tian have some numbers to go through for like our achievements to date.
Yeah, so just very quickly, right? For the protocol specifically, we keep track of the trading volume and TVL very closely. So as of today, our TVL hovers between 21 to 22 million dollars. So it depends on the price of the assets actually, but generally as of the range of assets in the last month or so, it should hover between 21 to 22 million dollars in TVL. And more interestingly, right, despite being in a market where activity level remains relatively low, the TVL in ETH terms is actually the highest ever. So compared to the bull market, we are performing better as a protocol in the bear market. So that is a very encouraging sign for us, and we believe that with the new implementations that we are introducing in the coming quarters, we should see improvements on this particular metric. And then the other aspect is the trading volume. So we've had just last week we've crossed $20 million in cumulative trading volume since we launched on the 30th of November 2022. So effectively about 3 months of operating Pendle, and we've crossed 20 million milestone, and that translates to about 250,000 of trading volume on a daily basis. And we yeah we're seeing relatively healthy trading volume every day. Again, with new implementations of features in the coming quarters, we anticipate the growth in this number. Oh yeah, one other thing is the VE Pendle. So as of today, we are seeing over 28 million units of Pendle tokens locked in the VE contracts, and that translates to about 17% of Pendle locked for VE Pendle. Um, so this is a fairly interesting one because we're starting to see more interest in the token itself, not just from individuals or retail, but also coming from protocols that are looking to maybe secure tokens and potentially utilize Pendle token to incentivize the incentives for pools on Pendle. So this again, like it's something that we're keenly exploring with other protocols. So I believe like we should be able to give more colors on the progress on this front in a couple of weeks or months.
Yeah, we can't really disclose too much about this because a lot of it is still in the conversation phase, in the talking stage, I'd say. But I think it's interesting to highlight that our TVL and trading volume has surpassed that of V1 in ETH terms. So it's good. It's good to see that we see that traction going, and we're not stopping anytime soon. We have more to come. And if you've been following our Twitter and our Discourse, we've been teasing a couple of things over the past couple of weeks. I think you guys know what's to come in the next couple of weeks. Um, we have quite a couple of markers already launched and endorsement from other protocols. I think uh, we have great partnerships with Aura, having our pool set up on Balancer. I think if you guys haven't don't know about it yet, if you want to provide ETH for Pendle ETH liquidity, you can check out the pools on Aura. I think the APR is in high um, 3 digits right now, and they're earning Balancer rewards. So it's not really inflationary on our protocol. So do check it out. And yeah, I've been trying to deepen our partnership with the Aura team. It's been a pleasure working with them and supporting, the LSD pools, and they're pretty much a big player in the LSD space, and we're building on top of them. Also got like endorsements from other protocols like Balancer, Rocket Pool, Lido, the Lux Rare team, and bunch of other protocols to come for partnership and endorsements. Yeah, I think in the short term and in the long term, we have a couple of strategies and approaches to approach the market. I think we get a lot of questions from the community on what are we approaching and how we are looking to approach these coming months. I think Tian can talk a little bit about our strategies to come.
Yeah, so I think I'll just keep this segment relatively high level, um, but there are several important points to talk about here. So in terms of the strategies and approaches, right, now that the product is out, I think we are also seeing relatively healthy early traction, but there's still a lot to do here. So what we'll have to do is to actually first and foremost invest in growth and BD efforts, right? And of course continue to iterate on the product as we move along. So I think to be specific, we are starting to see interest in the protocol from various institutions like trading shops or hedge funds. And what we see from this group of users is that there are several concerns that they usually have, and I think we need to address them. So primarily, they when they provide liquidity in the protocol, right? Impermanent loss is usually a consideration, because if they're providing liquidity in size, then if impermanent loss really does take place, then it could incur pretty steep losses for these funds. So with Pendle V2, actually we have designed it such that it is more in favor of liquidity providers, and it is up to us to convey and demystify the impermanent loss in Pendle pool, right? So we are making proactive approaches to trading shops, starting with the ones in our neighborhood in Asia. And then we organize workshops to help them understand about yield opportunities on Pendle. And over time, over the course of the last couple of weeks, we're seeing better conversion as compared to us just relying on materials to share with our community, right? So this is one aspect on the BD front. But of course, like having just having just like institutions to look into the product is insufficient. We also think that it is pivotal for us to improve our presence and visibility on social media, right? Not just again, like I think we're starting to see more mentions on Twitter, and these are relatively organic mentions. So of course, like we want to work with, say, influencers or creators who are respected in the space, help them understand more about the yield opportunities and the mechanics of Pendle. And if they like us, then they would probably write a more extensive thread about Pendle. And then when they share that with their community, we get the exposure, and then we get the mentions, and that's kind of how we can get the ball rolling. So in terms of growth and BD, this is generally our approach. We will, on the one hand, reach out to our target audience to help them understand more about yield opportunities on Pendle. And then on the other hand, we will also work with influencers or thought leaders across multiple medium to get them to learn about like Pendle, and then through them reach out to an even greater audience. So that is the growth and BD aspect, right? And then in terms of the iterative product development, we are continuously getting feedback from our community, and we will, to the best of our ability, put these feedback into work and improve the product. So this is the first layer, right? And then secondly, I think more importantly, now than ever, we need to have the mindset of continuous experimentation, because there are so many things that we can do here, and fixed rate sector is still relatively nascent. So instead of sitting idle and wait for the market to come back again, our preferred approach is actually to go out there to try to push boundaries, and which is why you see we constantly look to work with interesting protocols that fit our scope, and try to maximize the outreach. So in the last couple of months, you've seen us associating our brands with Aura, Balancer, Rocket Pool, Lido, Lux Rare, Ape, Apecoin. So these are the communities that we want to tap and work with to try to broaden our reach, and elevate the reputation of Pendle. So we will continue to associate ourselves with good brands and experiment with interesting ideas to work with these reputable brands. And of course, like, the goal here is never to settle with just a small market, right? We eventually want to make Pendle into one of the household brands within the DeFi community. And whenever people think about yield trading or fixed rates, they think about Pendle. That is the goal. And finally, we are also investing resources to stay on top of trends. So this is very apparent in our recent effort in LSD, right? So we recognize LSD to be one of the more important trends for at least the first half of this year, and that's where we decided to channel our resources in. And then, of course, Arbitrum has been one of the more talked about narratives as well. So as of February, our token is already trading on Arbitrum, and it's no surprise that we will be launching a market on Arbitrum. In fact, we are launching it this week. So the specifics of the market, it's actually pretty obvious. Yeah, but you'll see it already on the UI. So that's it, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
we have relatively simple priorities that we want to focus on, but a large part of it is more or less boiled down to the execution of it.
Yeah, for those of you guys that um have been following our announcement for a while, you might have noticed that most of our announcements happens on Thursdays. And I think that also coincides with our epoch timing, and that's kind of what's gonna happen on this Thursday as well. I think it's pretty obvious on what's to come. But just for those of you guys who are in this community call, for those of you who are holding VE pendles, I think by tomorrow you will be able to vote for the new pool that is coming up on Arbitrum. On You can vote for them from Ethereum. For those of you guys that don't already know, VE Pendle is already cross-chain, so you guys can vote for a new pool. And just remember that if you vote for a new pool or vote for any pool, you'll receive the swap fees from the pool. I personally am expecting a rather decent volume on Arbitrum, just because gas fees is low, and that's where people really experiment with protocols that are higher in complexity in nature. So I do expect quite some people experimenting on the new pool that we're launching on Arbitrum. So yeah, if you want to capture that fees, do vote for a new pool and check out the VE Pendle app by tomorrow. And I think we have some requests from the team for those of you guys who are here. I think Tian, yes, can cover that.
Yeah, so for those of you who are listening, right, this is quite in line with what I've shared earlier. So in terms of the request from the team, on I think, like, we mostly want to expand our scope. So if you ever if you know of funds or smart influencers, threaders who might be interested in learning about Pendle, please reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to share about our product and the design of the product with them, and hopefully they could find our product meaningful.
Yeah, it's kind of in line with what we mentioned before. It's just to get our educational reach as far as possible, and we've seen that kind of working on Twitter right now. We've seen quite a couple of thought leaders mentioning about Pendle, and starting to catch some clout on social media. And yeah, we want to keep it going. And if you guys know of any thought leaders in the space or any trading funds, trading firms, anyone, any whales, and wish to learn more about the protocol, please to just reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to schedule a session or just reach out to you guys on explaining about the protocol. And all in all, I think that's kind of everything that we want to share. If you guys have any questions, do throw it in the community call chat. And I think right now it's pretty much free and easy for us to have just like easy conversations. So if you guys have any questions, for us, anything you guys want to know about what has happened before, want us to address immediately, just to put it in the chat. And I think um if I can get some opinions from you guys, since we're kind of confirmed to launch on Arbitrum, is there any asset that you guys think will be interesting for us to support on Arbitrum? Well, apart from the obvious big few assets, I think we'll also be keen to learn more on like the smaller, um, smaller projects on Arbitrum. Well, Tian, do you have any idea?
There's no, I don't have an idea. I'm actually looking for ideas.
Yeah, I think beyond what
But
we've bounced internally, I think, but we also need liquidity for us to support the assets. So it's kind of
there's a
challenging to find
question.
assets. Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
did
there's a
see that. Yeah. Someone asked what's the best way to track the the AMM trading volumes. Is there a dashboard coming? Yes. Public dashboard is in the pipeline for now, just for everyone to know, for everyone to be able to keep track of about everything about the protocol. That's still under construction. We have one that we use internally, but it's pretty it's kind of a first iteration, so it doesn't look as good. And we're building one for us to show the public for now. But if you want specific numbers for trading volume details or just any details about the protocol, you can just drop in the chat right now, and I can just um, try and dig the numbers for you if we have it already. But in terms of trading volume, we have about $20 million in trading volume since the launch of V2, which is pretty healthy, I'd say. And we've seen, I think, more importantly, some of this trading volume happened at like large quantities at one swap, which highlights the capital efficiency of our AMM that we can take swaps of a single swap of higher volume with very with pretty meaningful slippage. But yeah, a dashboard is coming, and it is in a pipeline. I think a lot of other DeFi protocols, especially the big ones, have a dashboard for themselves, for other people to refer to. But yeah, you can refer to a TVL dashboard on DeFi Llama. I think that is pretty accurate the last time I checked. But I also include some of the remaining pools on V1, so you might have to, kind of filter it a little bit. Filter the V1 pools away a little bit, and also filter the staking pools to get like the actual V2 protocol TVL. But yeah, of course, it's in the pipeline. Someone asked, any plans on increasing the liquidity of Pendle token? Well, we have been working on it a little bit recently. Actually, not really a little bit. So like we have pools that are incentivized on Kyber Swap, pretty decent APRs, and most recently we have our pools on Balancer, the Pendle ETH pool on Balancer, and we've seeded a little bit of liquidity with hidden hands. Sorry, it's not seeded liquidity, seeded some incentives to bribe via hidden hands. So if you want to have a look at it, the pool APR is right now pretty good, and you can deposit your Pendle ETH on Aura to farm the rewards on Balancer. But I think beyond that, I think TN can address uh, the Pendle liquidity.
Not much to add actually. I think so if it's helpful, we're also looking at secondary exchange listings. But this aspect here is quite beyond our control. What we can do is really to submit applications to exchanges and grow the community. Generally, when exchanges notice significant uptick in activity in, say, decentralized exchanges, right, then the likelihood of the token getting listed on centralized exchanges would increase. So yeah, that's also why we're focusing on improving the visibility of the protocol across different types of social media outlets.
Yeah. Liquidity is always a tricky question to navigate, but it's something that we're also working on because it helps a lot of people to onboard them into the protocol because to a lot of people the token is kind of the first gateway to the protocol, so it's something that we're also looking to address. Someone asked if we know the uh, average amount of time the current lock Pendle is locked for. Is, if I remember correctly, it's about a year, slightly over a year is the average lock time for the Pendle token. But we do see constant inflow of VE Pendle locks, so it's good to see that, and we've seen some interest from other bigger parties, bigger players in the space to ensure uh, incentive flow to their pools and just earning extra fees, extra yield on their Pendle token. Someone asked about a specific question on a specific sentence on Twitter. Someone that's like, we have a sentence on Twitter that says, "Imagine if real yield could become even more real." Um, well, it's kind of a wordplay. I think without leaking a little bit too much, because the narrative kind of started from Arbitrum. What Pendle does is kind of we help you realize your yield immediately if you sell your yield away through selling YT. So it's kind of like making the real deal even more real because you can receive them like immediately and just deploy your um, capital somewhere else. But yeah, it's kind of like a wordplay with real yield, and it's a narrative that we are really trying to drill into because Pendle is not a is to use Pendle, the yield from Pendle is not really inflationary beyond the incentives for liquidity providers. You can use the protocols like trading yield. All this yield that you're playing with is straight up from the underlying. So it's kind of really playing with the real yield narrative. Two Lambros asks, given that Pendlefi is complicated, uh, one of the more complicated protocols, is it a good thing to list in centralized exchanges? I honestly think it is, but I think TN will have more thought on this.
Yeah, so I think it is because I think there are people who use the protocol and there are people who want to speculate on the protocol token and they don't necessarily overlap. And I think that if there is an avenue for the speculators of the protocol token to speculate on the token without having to go to, say, a decentralized exchange or yeah, just use the MetaMask wallet, right? They can just set up the account with, hopefully Binance or Coinbase, this kind of values, and do that. I think we'll see a lot more meaningful trading volume of the protocol token, and the liquidity will naturally gravitate towards these venues. Yeah, so I think in short, I think there's actually merit in having the token listed on centralized exchanges.
Yeah, I think beyond that, centralized exchanges also give like trading avenues for retail users to understand the protocol. It's kind of a gateway to people who are not too sophisticated. I know that Pendle is a more sophisticated protocol, but if we can reach the masses, why not? If we can end up being like the Cardano that never dies, even though they're not really shipping anything, somehow they're still alive. Yeah, it'll be good to have that attention from the retail side of things. We have a question from someone. Are we working with the Frax team on their LSD product? Well, Frax ETH is interesting. I shall not comment too much on that. But yeah, moving on.
Yeah, but I guess like
Oh,
to say in short, right? LSD is definitely an avenue that a narrative that we're interested in. So yeah, to be honest, we are looking across a broad base of ETH derivatives, and we're not too sure what kind of ETH derivatives we want to list subsequently, but we will keep a lookout for Frax ETH, Anchor ETH, CB ETH, all this different kind of ETH. Yeah, so as long as the liquidity justifies, then yes, we will support.
yeah, I think, yeah. TN just kind of given a more politically correct answer over here. um, what is our thoughts on Base? It's a new chain from a new L2 from Coinbase. Will we consider building there down the road, given that it may end up being a hub for CBEs? Well, we can't say for sure. Pendle kind of needs liquidity from the underlying that already exists for us to function well. But it's something that we are looking at. Just note that VE Pendle is crushing compatible, so it'll be pretty easy for us to spring up um our presence on another chain if we need to. But yeah, we are actively monitoring that. Even beyond that, there are other chains that we're looking at. I think Optimism right now is also gaining quite a bit of traction. Our research team is kind of looking into that. But yeah, no promises for now. It's just mostly on the research phase and try to understand if it makes sense for us to spend our resources to launch on a new chain. But with V2, it doesn't really take that much of a resource to you know hop onto a new ecosystem. Okay, someone asked me to leak something, whether is it Frax, GLP, leverage yield farming, GNS, or InstaDev ETH. Well, I can't comment on any of those, but yeah, some of them are right. Some of them are to be expected. Yeah. Um, you can scroll through our GitHub and you can kind of see um you kind of get some information early on before we announce it in the public, because we kind of also have to test things a little bit on our UI and just get things sorted out here and there. But yeah, if you nose around our GitHub a little bit, you can, you know, get some information earlier than the public. I can't say that'll be consistent down the line, but the more you poke, the more you find.
Hey, I actually have a question for Tulan Bros. So I really appreciate the memes. Okay, so this is definitely out of scope of our like panel discussions, right? But how long does it take for you to construct a meme that you use as a cover for your thread?
Yeah, for context for everyone, he wrote a thread about Pendle, and it was really hilarious in the memes that he used. And after noticing a couple of his other threads, the graphics that he used for his threads are all hilarious. I think they're pretty good.
All right. Yeah, that's it. Let's move on to another questions.
Yeah. Um, there's not too many questions here and there, but I think a lot of people are some of them are interested in us launching on a new chain. But yeah, new chain is always at the back of our minds. It's not too difficult for us to spring up and know ourselves on a new chain. If you guys have any requests, just do throw them up on our suggestions, and we'll look into it. Oh, Crypto asks, how is funding runway for the team look? Any needs to raise in the future? Ah,
Yeah,
Tien.
so I think the runway is healthy. Comfortably, I'd say like we have a little more like more than 24 months comfortably. But in terms of the raise, right, that's not a priority for us at the moment. But if we come across an investor or a potential investor that might be synergistic with our protocol, then we will consider aligning our interests right, by selling tokens. So I think to put it in perspective, right, I believe that we are at this juncture where we we are we might need some help to help us get to an even a different category altogether, right? Because um right now, again, even though we're seeing healthy traction, I think we're still relatively confined to a certain set of user base. So if we can increase our exposure through the help of a strategic investor, then I think it would make sense for us to consider a raise.
So, there's a follow-up question that I'd like to share what our runway treasury is like. Is it stablecoin? Like, is it, or do we need to like sell some sort of token or OTC some of the vested token?
Um, so Runway is a mix of ETH and stable coins. Um, yeah, if it's OTC, then it would be the protocol token, right?
Yeah, but on that, I would say our runway is still pretty healthy, and the most of our treasury is still in ETH, and stable coins. So still, I'd say we're on the right track here. But again, it feels like it's not. We can't shy away from the idea of having us a raise down the line. Are we liquid staking our ETH?
Um, okay, so I can answer this. So I actually have an example of um, like us using our own protocol for treasury management. So not specific to ETH, but this was more for Pendle V1 actually. So back in the days, right, we were seeing fixed rates of maybe 20 something percent for stable coins. And we had a decent portion of stable, um, and we use it mostly as an example, right? For to exemplify the proposition of the protocol. And yeah, so eventually we managed to lock in the 20% fixed yield, and that was a good showcase of how the protocol works for V1. And then for V2 specifically, no, we didn't have any. um the protocol treasury is separated, but individually, I'd say a lot of our team members have direct, uh yeah, just positions on Pendle.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm one of our biggest Pendle players. Like he's also just for context, someone asked, are we using Pendle as a team member? Yeah, for sure. We're like, no shit. Um, we have one of the best understandings of the protocol, and of course we use our own protocol. Yield trading, I think, is a tool for everyone, and if you understand how to yield trade, I think there's a lot of opportunities to be made here. And someone said Dan thinks he's size. No, we have more whale team members that have like much larger capital to play around with Pendle. Um, yeah, but yeah, I think the yield on Pendle is still one of the best in DeFi entirely. Fixed yield on ETH is still one of the highest on Pendle. Just yeah, so like if a stack of ETH, just even if you don't want to farm inflationary tokens, just go ahead and buy PT on Pendle. That's straight up fixed yield. And if you don't think yield from LSD is gonna sustain post no Shanghai fork, just come to Pendle and lock in your yield. Or if you're more adventurous, you can speculate on the yield by trading YT. And yeah, I feel like there's a lot of opportunities to be made there if you understand how to trade yield. How about Tienda? Do you use the protocol? Like I'm sure you do use. But like, what are you
Yeah, I
more
do.
interested in?
I personally have a decent position in the ETH pools.
Okay, that's fair.
And Lock VE Pendle, lock Pendle for VE Pendle.
Two Level says, "What are your thoughts on ApeCoin on Pendle?" So we have ApeCoin supported on Pendle. So just for context, we kind of created a public good for everyone. Where okay, so the thing is, if you stake ApeCoin on the actual ApeCoin website, it's not auto compounding. So we create a public good for everyone where it auto compounds, and then we take that auto compounder to support it on Pendle, where you can speculate on the yield of ApeCoin. We've seen healthy traction in the first few weeks of launch. I think the hype for ApeCoin kind of died down over time, but we saw that for assets with high yield, people are more active in trading that yield because there's just more opportunities to make money. Um, there's a follow-up question to ask, like, if is it more of a marketing move? Um, it it's more of like an experiment to support high yield assets, and also part of our um, priorities that we mentioned earlier to just stay on top of trends. And because Pendle V2 is permissionless, it's very easy for us to set up pools. And back then, ApeCoin was very hyped, and why not just support ApeCoin? It doesn't cost us much anyway.
Yeah, I think for the ape market, we also developed a compounder that was probably the best compounder that in the entire sector. So if I remember correctly, when it was first launched, the published rate on Ape Compounder on Pendle was maybe around 300 something, 400%, which is significantly higher than what the Ape Stake website offered. So that was that was an attempt again, like for us to move very quickly to follow a trend and hope to capture some of that market for our protocol.
Yeah. Someone asked, like, what is the EIP 2535 diamond proxy from the announcement yesterday? So for context, we kind of launched our new router upgrade yesterday. The EIP is kind of a standard that we follow or take reference from. But all in all, the idea is that the new router will have less gas with more features, such as you can claim. I think what was it? I think claim yield the moment you withdraw or something like that. But like it supports a bunch of other features that were previously not supported, and it just saves a ton of gas. I know it requires an extra approval, but I think the gas cost savings in the future from like two or three transactions will pretty much cover the approval gas cost already. So it's kind of worth it for us to upgrade to a new um, router. It was a we got a pretty decent traction and pretty decent attention from people who are very developer centric in the community. So it was good to see that we got those attention. Um, yeah, back to the ApeCoin stuff. I think 0xDeFi new brought up a good point here, where you can get a delta neutral exposure on a very high yield like a PTYT, but you're exposed to the price of ape. But what you can do is you can short ape somewhere else, like on centralized exchanges or like other perps, um, to get that delta neutral position. It's an interesting strategy to play with. I think those are for very advanced DeFi users, but yeah, you can get delta neutral exposure for an asset with like 3-digit yield, and you can get fixed yield for that asset on Pendle. So it's yeah, it's pretty cool to see. We um we've seen quite a number of conversations on getting delta neutral exposure on fixed yield on some like insider community. I think just to name one, the community from the calculator guy. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it. They cover a lot on like delta neutral strategies, and yeah, I do see conversation popping up here and there about Pendle. So you're getting fixed yield, and on top of that, if you short that asset somewhere else, you're getting a delta neutral fixed yield. So you know, pretty cool to see that. We have like a couple more minutes before I think Tian has to hop off to have a meeting with a potential partner, maybe. But I can't lead too much to it. Someone just asked, who just sold Pendle? Can we boot them? Well, the more people selling Pendle means the more loyal community remains. So I'll think of it as a good sign. Say hi to Yearn. Huh. It is definitely something interesting for us to look into. But yeah, won't comment too much on that. But if anyone here is connected to the Yearn team, do feel free to, connect us to them, and
No,
you know.
I mean, like there was a guy who reached out right
Oh
from
yeah.
the Yearn community. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we already kind of connected to them. I forgot about that.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, I mean that's. I didn't want to leak too much for the community. I think there's like a little bit too much leaked in this call already. Well, I wouldn't call it leak, but it's like information here and there. Someone just told me to leave, bro. Nah, I can't, man. I swear, I think after this call, the team is gonna tie me down to a chair and just like make me not talk anymore. But enjoying my time over here. Okay, anyways, I think we'll take like a couple more questions over the next 2 minutes or so, and if we don't have any more questions, I think we can wrap up the call. Wrap up the call already. But if you guys have anything you guys want to know, more about the protocol, I see everyone's kind of spamming Pendle is live, but yeah, Pendle is kind of live. Okay, I guess there's nothing else already. Cool. If that's the case, then I guess we can wrap up. Thank you everyone for joining the community call. This call will be recorded unless I mess up the recording. And we'll upload it on our